on Instagram as well. And we're live. John Hamlet with 2 T's. Sorry about that, John. Welcome to Coffee and Conversations with Champions. Thank you for joining us.
Nicholas, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Only a pleasure. Got to, listen, if Bernard says you got to chat to this guy, we got to chat to this guy because, sometimes the Bernard, we don't know, is it a suggestion? Is it a threat? Is it advice? No. Just kidding. Just kidding. He's a sweetheart. He's a sweetheart.
It could be criminal. It could be criminal.
Yeah,
you never know.
Yeah, 100%. So I think, I've chatted to Bernie, and from his side, he sort of, you're really helping him focus on his nutrition. And one of the reasons, I must be honest, why I'm so happy to chat to you is, you probably mentioned it about a year, maybe 2 years ago, sort of going away on holiday and the family giving him a hard time about sticking to his nutrition and to his eating plan. And, that's like, okay, geez, if you're on holiday and you're not eating what the family's eating, that must be a pretty impressive coach that you're working with. And that's you. So just as we start, give us a little bit of a background as to who you are and what you do.
Thanks. Yes. Okay, Nicholas. Well, basically, I'm a performance nutrition and movement specialist. Basically, that's what I do. I have a lot of coaching as far as I started with Comrades Coaching as a professional athlete myself and moved into the nutrition side. Went to Russia and learned a whole ton about nutrition and also in other places, obviously. It bit me. I was previously in the other side of things, the intelligence stuff. But that was past. It's an old history, and we move into our new history. I think something like you move from other things and you're now into all this game.
Yep.
Obviously.
15 years in insurance.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's it. Well, it might have made a lot more money.
Yeah.
But it's not what your heart was doing.
100%.
To me.
Yep.
You want to do what you love. So I like the part about, of course, the performance part was world-class athletes. I've been blessed to have about 5 winners in Comrades and about 73 or 74 gold medals now in Comrades and many in 2 Oceans and stuff. So we did a lot of the ultra distance stuff. Coached them from 0 to hero. Was quite nice. But more than that, I love the nutrition part. So we then started, obviously we had to do it with them. And I started to move over to, let's call it the man in the street, for want of another word. Just find people that really need that help and drive them the same way you do a professional athlete, but at the same time, add value, they make their lives change, make their weight, I know you're a power lifter and you guys like lots of weight.
Yep.
Good thing. But there's also a line, the BMI mustn't be 60 or 70 or something.
And we're seeing that with a lot of, just to digress a little bit, we're seeing that with a lot of super strong men. So, Eddie Hall, some of the other guys up at that level where they were walking around probably 30, 40, 50 kilos heavier. And now they're really lean down. They've still got the abs now, and they're still breaking records. So they're really understanding you don't have to be, because it was that old consensus, right? In strength sports, for every 3 kilos of body weight, you add a kilo to your total. And that's really, it's got to be functional body weight now, which I think is what we're realizing.
I think the graph was weird in your environment. I think what happened was more weight made more pickup weight possibilities. But I think in reality, fat doesn't pick up anything. Muscle picks up everything. So I think that's a very, very, very thing. Sure, we have more muscle, we get more fat, we get more muscle. But then, of course, if you lose the fat in the old days, that was the problem with the nutrition. In the old days, I remember the old bodybuilders gaining tons of fat and muscle, then and leaning out at the end. And that was quite a bit of a nightmare for nutrition and was not very good for your body. But they would lose some muscle as well. But they would kind of find the happy medium. And I think the same with powerlifters. I did a lot of work with the guys in Fochville, those bunch that are serious powerlifters there, a bunch of gorillas there, to put it mildly.
It's like Johan Hani Smith, Joe Smith, Rulof, Nicholas, all of the guys that are out that side of town. Yep.
Yes, and they were doing some asking for proteins and stuff, obviously. And it was incredible to see that gym. I always said it's the hardest court gym I've ever seen. It was really something to see.
And some of that memorabilia that's up on the wall is incredible as well for the guys who have trained over this. Yeah. That so we sort of got a little bit sidetracked, and I think we're going to get a bit sidetracked as we go. But so sort of, how did you get started? You mentioned sort of performing at an elite level yourself. What were the sports that you were involved in, and then what was it that grew your passion for nutrition?
Certainly. Well, I was an athlete, a runner, obviously.
Okay.
I ran comrades at 15 and they wouldn't let me finish, but we
Sure.
ran with a bucket and a sponge, supposed to be seconding somebody, but we actually wanted to run the race. Those days you could start with the race, never finish it. They wouldn't let you into the stadium. But you were, I mean, 15-year-old, this just clicked. I did everything. I think my dad was a gentleman of note. You know, he bought everything. We were not uncomfortable. We were financially viable, but he would buy the tennis rackets and the soccer boots and the cricket boots and the whatever else. And I think he got to the place where he said, "This is nuts." And I said to him, "Well," one day I walked in at 15 years old, I said, "Dad, I want to run a marathon." And he said, "Okay, now this is nonsense." You know, he said, "This is absolute nonsense. Do you know how far a marathon is?" I said, "No, I don't want to run."
Yeah.
And of course, I went up to Petersburg those days, Poloconia,
Yeah.
Petersburg. Before that, 3 weeks before, we had to do these serious tests to see if I'm going to waste his money driving all the way up there. He bought me a weird bunch of. We had tennis tackies. We smeared it full of Vaseline inside. There was none of these high tech, new, ultra fancy shoes. And of course, he said, "You'll have to prove it to me." So, needless to say, he dropped me 42 Ks out. And I had to run this thing the first weekend. I didn't make it. I ran 30 Ks and I had blisters like you can imagine. But I said, "No, I'm going to do it." So we did nothing the whole week. And the next weekend, we had another 42, which I had to do. And I got to 40 Ks within the so-called allotted time of 4 hours or whatever. Okay, it looks like you'll make it. We'll go down next weekend. I mean,
Sure.
this is insanity training. But
But
I
also, hold
went
on,
up
just
there
bear in
and I've
mind,
never.
Comrades is not 42 Ks.
Absolutely. No, but I mean, this is a 15-year-old
Yep.
starting to run.
Yep.
This is where the passion started. And it actually bit me. I got to that race and I came eighth, and I learned to drink Coca-Cola on the route, and I drank water, which we thought was going to give us stitches and things, and wasn't the case. And of course, the bug was bitten. That was always my passion from there onwards. Of course, we
Phenomenal.
had a job to do, and we were
Yep.
working in government and all that, but yeah.
Sure. So, I think, nutrition is such an integral part, and I think it's often a very, very neglected part of people's mental state, their energy, their anxiety levels, their confidence, how they just feel their ability to function throughout the day. Not even looking at the elite athlete. Working with elite athletes, you can understand there's a goal, they're very, very committed, but to get, let's say, as you said, members of the public, normal people, to stick to a diet. I was thinking about it before we were chatting just this morning, where I've seen in the 15, 16 years I've been running the gym, I've seen three kinds of people, or four kinds of people in terms of nutrition. One, people that are not interested in about weight. They don't care about weight. They're happy to eat well because they know it makes them feel well. They know what they eat. If it makes them feel terrible, they don't eat it. If it makes them feel good, they eat more of it. Then you get the type of person that wants to lose weight, and every single piece of advice that you say to them, right, start off the morning with 500 mils of water. 500 mil, I can't drink that much. And then, okay, you need to cut this and this. I can't do that. So every single suggestion you make is an argument. Then there's the third kind of person that does the same thing. Then after a bit of time, we'll say, okay, let me try it, and you baby step them, and then they turn around. Maybe it takes a year to get them onto this path, and in 2 years' time, they turn around and say, this has changed my life. It's wonderful. Their relationship with their nutrition, they understand that the nutrition is like medicine. It's there to keep them going, and that's it. And then you get the fourth kind of person now, which are, bumping into people from decades past that like would never get it going with a diet or eating plan or nutrition, and now they're super lean and buff, but let's say there's certain medications that they're taking that are now available that have got them down to that, or gastric bypass surgery, all that. So it's such a different mix, but I don't know if people understand how hard it is to get people to stick to a plan. And yet, when you start and you listen to your body and you listen to what you're feeling, it's a game changer. Like, I don't want to eat that stuff. So I'd love to get it from your side. What's your experience in terms of the struggle of getting people to do what's best for them?
Absolutely. That is probably, you've summed it up so nicely. You've got these whole bunch of different guys and the flags coming. I've done this for now a good 30, 25 years.
Yeah.
So we know all the excuses.
So you started when you were 10. So
no, yeah, oh, thanks. I like you. I like you a lot. No. We've done it. I've done it since, yeah, it's a good 20 something years. So 25, I think. 20, I've been coaching for 40 years odd, and I ran from the age of 15, but obviously coaching is somewhat later. Now, the performance part was the nutrition part was interesting, because that's pretty much 80% of it, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
It's just
I would dare to say even more, I'd say 95% is your nutrition.
Yes.
If you wanting to perform at an elite level, and if you also want to feel that 20% better, you need to take it to 95%.
100%. You see, the whole philosophy of the Russians, because we worked in the Russian sports school, the whole philosophy was the brain is a survival machine.
Yeah.
It's looking at surviving. What it wants to do is protect the fat it has. If you have fat for more than 4 months, it says this fat is a normalized fat. It doesn't want to get rid of it. It protects it. It seems it's concerned that we're not going to have Pick and Pay and Woolies and all that. And then, it's going to be one of those days that there's no food available. But the problem is to lose the right weight in what we call the channel of loss without going into low calorie or even gain fat and steal muscle. We don't want we have to get that thing right. So we built a little algorithm that made sure that if we get a person, I can put him into the thing and say, this is what you're supposed to eat. And it's not calorie deficient. It's not about calories at all. It's about losing fat and protecting muscle. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Bottom line.
So more muscle, that's definitely been proved now in England and all over. Those that have more muscle live longer, they live better, they move better, and in generally are better prepared for old age as well.
I think okay. Sorry, just to interrupt on that point, where they were looking at blue zones with longevity, they found one of the biggest factors in a blue zone. They looked at the food and the nutrition and all of that, which is vital, but they turned out to be mountainous areas or hilly areas, hilly villages. So the guys are walking. It's that glute development. Like muscle in later life is essential. So I just just to add that.
And you're lucky in your game, being the powerlifting game. At least you guys are focusing on now. Marathon runners and cyclists in there, they don't. They want to be lean, very, very lean, no muscle if possible. They just want enough muscle to turn the wheels, but nothing else. And that's dangerous in old age, because old age you're going to need some muscle. You're going to be able to keep those legs walking. As you said, those zones, those blue zones. It's a bit about the social environment. They have a social link, but much more. The food is clean. It's good food. It's natural food. It's got not a bunch of this rubbish we have. And of course, much more important, as you said, they grow their own stuff. They're moving. They're working in the garden all the time, and that is making longevity absolutely correct. And I think in our new world, especially the new generation, I am concerned. Their fingers are very strong, but I'm a little concerned about the way they eat, Red Bull and all his friends. And I hope they're not proudly sponsored.
No.
But all of these type of stimulants and stuff is causing a great, massive problem. I mean, I work with a lot of the mines as well. And we found that BMI is absurd in the mines nowadays. Things like energy drinks are common, very common. And eating lots of carbs, breakfast, lunch, and supper, and even in between is a standard. It's such a dangerous environment. So this, to me, was a great passion to take a bunch of people and say, listen, let's change the game. Let's change it. And then, of course, a guy like Bernard. I mean, come on. Bernard is such a committed guy. He's actually, I think his wife needs a medal. I think all our wives need a medal, but particularly his
wives and his girls.
and his girls, yeah. He commits to it and says, "This is what I'm going to do,"
Yeah.
and he really does do it. I mean, that's awesome. There's so few, as you said.
Mm.
Those are probably the top 1% in
Yeah.
any people you meet. The bottom end is those that fall off within the first 2 weeks, or
Mm.
they feel this new hype, or they'll see me on your show and say, "Yes, let's get hold of this guy. I want him to help me with my nutrition." And of course they'll all be on fire for the first week or two, and then they find, you know what, it's not a case of just eating lots of stuff and everything's hunky-dory. I have to change a few things. I have
Mm.
to look at my cravings. We did full research on the cravings, have to address those cravings, and then work through it until we get to a place where basically it's a four-phase thing, where we can actually get to a place where your fat percentages, your new fat percentage
Mm.
normalizes in the brain,
Right.
and then this has become you. This is normal, and that's nice. It's a place where, and as you said, looking at your energy. You know, if you're getting the dipsy doos
Mm.
at 11 o'clock in the morning, or you're getting in the late afternoon 3 o'clock, or you can't get out
Mm-hmm.
of bed, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
The Russian prof I worked with, I loved it when I went up there. I'd retired from running. I'd done I think a
Mm.
2:18 marathon. And I said, you know
Sure.
what, I'm getting on in age. It
Mm.
wasn't even on age. I think it was about 30. Stupid.
Mm.
And I said, you know what, I've had enough, because there's no money in it those days. And
Mm.
I had a
Mm.
good father who would say, you know, this business, what are you doing? You know, this, you need to do business.
From
This is
this you
not
make a
making
living.
money. Yeah. Are you playing? What's wrong
Yeah.
with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then, of course, from that, he said, I understood what he said, because
Mm.
in those days, it's true.
Yeah.
You won a box of biscuits or a medal or
Mm.
a
Mm.
trophy or something, but it was never going to be a career. Um, and of course, then when I went to Russia, speaking to this professor, getting there after being come a little bit out of shape, getting a bit of a stomach, from
Mm.
a very skinny 60 kilos, which was also no good,
Yeah.
to suddenly getting this belly. And of course, went to the doc, and the doc said, your cholesterol's elevated. You know, I said, he says, don't worry, you know, you're getting a bit older, you've
Mm.
stopped
Mm. Mm.
running. You know what? He should have given me a good smack and said, no, you're behaving like a stupid. Get your nutrition right,
Mm. Mm.
get your lifestyle right. I think that's important. Get your lifestyle right. So of course, when I got to Russia, I was like a dead man walking, because you're always
Sure.
tired.
Mm.
So it was great because it was in the middle of the winter. So 9 o'clock the sun comes up and 3 o'clock the sun goes down. And what happened was, basically I'd be sleeping till 9 o'clock, and then I'd
Sure.
squeeze myself out, not have
Mm.
breakfast
Mm.
or anything. And of course, this professor was watching me. He's a short little guy. He was watching me quiet. And one day he walked up. He could hardly speak English,
Mm.
and he said to me, I was the coach now. He says, Coach, you're not well. He says, you're
Mm. Mm.
eating,
Mm.
sorry, use the word shit. You're eating and stop doing this. Your
Mm.
energy
Mm.
not good. And I thought, what's wrong with this man? Is he stupid? I said, I was a professional athlete, man. What's wrong with you? And what do you mean?
I
I can
know.
just go stop training.
Yeah,
Forget
exactly.
about
Don't
it.
you can't
I,
tell me.
no,
Yep.
what you telling me? You know
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
You're just a short guy from Russia.
Yeah.
And leave my athletes alone. I'm the coach, very arrogant,
Mm. Mm.
And of course, he said, no, you are sick. You're eating nonsense. And of course, he put me on a little program
Mm.
very quickly. I realized, because I was sleeping in the bus to get to the training, and then I would sit on a chair falling asleep. Your energy system was dead.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's logic. You can have the Ferrari, you don't put the right fuel in, it's not going to work. And
100%.
and this is way more important than a Ferrari.
Mm.
This whole body of ours is something that's critical, especially that part which we all seem to hide away from.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, we started this whole thing, and they'd done the research. The Russians were really good. They'd literally done it with their sports schools. They knew how to get a ballerina right, how to get a
Mm. Mm.
powerlifter right. And their powerlifters were not fat, eh? Let me tell you, their powerlifters were strong.
Yep.
And then we had in between the sort of the cardio type guys, the
Mm. Mm.
cyclists and the swimmers and the runners. And of course, this became a whole research. It became my passion. Suddenly, I woke up and realized this is what I was supposed to be doing.
But you
And
also
after a
had
couple of weeks, of
you
course,
had the extra energy and the mental reserve and capacity to realize it now.
absolutely. I believe if I hadn't met this man and gone all that way,
Mm.
I probably would have been one of those dead men walking now at my age. I would have been
Mm-hmm.
probably, I don't know if I would have made it this far. I'm not joking,
Mm. Mm.
because you literally live very badly. I mean, I had
And the
the
quality
nice
of life's
KFC.
terrible, right? Yeah. Yeah.
You're dead walking. You don't realize. Come
Mm.
on, you're sleeping at 9 in the morning, and then you're
Mm.
waking up and going back to bed at 4 in the afternoon, and you're sleeping or dozy all day.
Mm.
There's
Mm.
no energy. There's no desire to do anything. You're just a dead man walking. You're obviously lucky to have a bit of testosterone naturally because there's no hair. But other than that, you'd be in
Yeah.
a very bad place. Sexually, otherwise, I mean,
Mm,
everything
mm,
would be in a mess. And of course, when that after going through all of that, and well, the Russians were hardcore. When I
mm,
said, "Okay, doc," after a couple of weeks, realizing cravings are a bad place to be if you are trying to lose weight and trying to get yourself in shape, I said, "Let's do the research on cravings."
mm,
And of course, this was mind blowing. They thought, "Well, just get over yourself. We'll stick you in a room and you'll get over yourself. Just keep eating what you're supposed to eat." Luckily, that those days there was not too many McDonald's and all his
mm,
friends
mm,
around.
mm,
They didn't exist. But from that, we kind of then built up the system, and it worked with all my athletes. Then I had these pro athletes. I had a couple of triathlon girls and all the rest of them, and we got them into shape. And of course, it slowly evolved. Of course, then I did a bit of stuff, and I wanted to study in America because I've
mm,
been thinking of leaving sunny South Africa, which I think is nuts. We've
mm,
got to fix
mhm.
this place. We're going to mess it up.
Yep.
Um, and of course, I sent all the stuff that I'd got from Russia, all the studies and that. And they kind of sent me a little thick book about this big. It said I must write a thesis before they can actually see what the Russian
Mm,
equivalent
mm,
or
mm.
whatever the case was. And that was, of course, the food pyramid nonsense.
Yep.
And the food pyramid nonsense. I said, well, I had when I wrote it, I started to write, you can write a thesis two ways. One way you can write it to suit the person you're writing the thesis
Mm,
for, and you can tick off all the blocks and away you go. Or you can write honestly and say critically, this is what we're doing and this is why we're doing it. And it works. It's
mm,
not
mm.
working. In fact, I remember when I sent my thesis in eventually, he kind of like, I think it just landed. I never heard a word from him, but when it landed on his desk, I think he literally phoned me, which I'd never heard him phone me before,
Sure.
the prof. And he said to me, "What is this? You're blowing everything out of proportion about our
Mm, mm.
thinking in nutrition." I said, "No, I'm not blowing out of proportion. This is what the Russians do. No offense. The Russians are in far better shape than you guys.
Yeah.
No,
I've never
you guys
seen a
are
fat
overweight.
Russian.
I've never seen, no, if you see a
Yeah.
fat Russian, he's a very wealthy
Yeah.
oligarch. Even the oligarchs don't really get
No,
fat, but
no, but
yeah, quite correct.
he's a very wealthy Russian, and he's living in Israel.
Either
Yeah,
Israel or
he is.
maybe in
Yeah,
England or something,
that's it. Yeah,
staying
hundred
away from the
percent.
poison.
Yeah,
Yes. So
hundred
that's how
percent. Mm,
I kind of grew. And we perfected it a bit more, put in because it was a good 4 years of study on the brain,
mm, mm,
on the cravings. The cravings, you have two groups of cravings. One is energy group and
mm,
one is mineral group, mineral and vitamin, and your brain will always shop for these two things. And then people say, "No, I crave chocolate." I say, probably craving the energy group in chocolate,
mm-hmm,
or maybe perhaps the potassium, magnesium out of the milk of
mm-hmm.
chocolate. And if you're craving, say, ice cream, it could be similar things. So the minerals, you have a reference from your formative years, from the age of 3 to 10, and this reference refers to a mineral. You cannot say to your brain, "Give me a liter of potassium." It doesn't know what you're talking about. It will
Yeah.
say what? It says, "Give me bananas, potatoes, and chocolate," or whatever the
Mm-hmm,
case might be. And that'll be in that reference. So it was quite interesting to do that. We did that with pregnant ladies because they always get cravings. And a weird one was, I remember a lot of them, when they were pregnant in Russia, we had 50 ladies in that test. They were craving cement, dry cement.
mm,
They had that, they wanted desire for cement or
mm,
sand.
mm.
Wow, what is this? So when we broke it down, sand and cement's got a lot of calcium in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Sure.
basically, as children, they were always, because they were working outside playing and eating mud and sand and that, they got the association from the
Mm-hmm.
brain. If I need calcium, look for this. Fact that you might get some sort of virus that burns off your lips or whatever from that doesn't matter. It's the reality. The brain was
Yeah.
shopping for the mineral.
Yes.
How they then, when they became pregnant, started to look for those things. And interesting, the
Sure.
concrete, the cement part, I didn't
Mm.
quite understand until I actually went into the far end of Russia where nothing's painted. It's all in concrete, all the walls. It's
Ah.
raw.
Okay. Yes.
So they obviously, as children, licking it and doing whatever
Mm-mm.
they were doing, and this is how it kind of came around. Interesting
Just,
part there, yeah.
I mean, our brains are so much. Well, sorry, our brains and our bodies are so much smarter than we are, and exactly as you said,
Absolutely.
it's that association. And even I've been sober for 18 years, so for me, my
No,
big thing I have to watch.
congratulations.
Thank you. Nah,
That's a proper craving.
thank you. Listen, the alternative was dying, so it wasn't
No,
easy, but it was very simple to do. And, like 20 drafts a day. And again, what was very interesting is, like, I'm not a whiskey or a vodka or a wine drinker. I'm a beer drinker because, like, I wanted the sugar. Yes. And, so I when I stopped, I cross-addicted within a year to eating 6 150-gram slabs of chocolate on a Friday. That was my chill time. And I'd buy them because they were on special, but they'd be gone within a couple of hours, not even cognitive. And I realized, no, this is a bit of a problem. So that sugar addiction kicked in. It's a huge thing, the sugar addiction. And also, you talk about the fast food chains. We're living in a world, and whether you're a professional athlete or an ordinary person, we're living in the world where their food is manufactured to hit our satiation points. That sugar, that salt, and that fat, like to turn those switches off, so we just keep going. No one is going to eat the equivalent calories in lettuce or broccoli that they would in the takeaway food. It's just not physiologically possible. There's no roughage, and it's just, giving you what you need and turning it off. So I love the fact that it's, what you do is very science-based, because the food that's become our enemy is very, very science-based.
Well, that's interesting, because there was a talk about the tobacco companies where it bought out a bunch in the 70s, the mid-70s. Yes. I actually had a look at a couple of YouTube things about Ivongo Beach in the 1970s. Although it was lily white, everybody was skinny. There was no fat people on the beach, literally nobody. Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I remember I went there about a year or two ago, and I spot the normal man. Yes. And Winnemini Mine. There was nobody there. They were all highly obese, really, and even the children. I thought, wow, what's happened to our world? And then I started to think a bit and analyze a bit, and found that there's a few things. First of all, 1970, I think 75, tobacco companies bought out all these food conglomerates, and they then started to play the chemical game with that, as they've done with tobacco.
Yes.
And how this started to infiltrate. So we get MSGs and all these type of things. And all of a sudden now we are at a place where you could buy certain deep fried chicken, and you could put a real chicken next to it, and you'd rather eat that deep fried chicken. Yeah. And you go like, but I also fried this one. How come this one drives me to eat it? What's going on? Yeah. All the MSGs enhancers are making me chase this thing almost like sugar. So then, of course, I agree with you. The sugar craving is drastic. It's drastic, especially if you've been in alcohol business, because alcohol is sugar.
Sugar, yep.
So the craving of sugar, but then we found a lot of people associated only the craving of sugar. There's a craving of fat. There's a craving of minerals. That's because by association, it depends where you live. In other words, your palate has been adapted. If a man eats a bit of lamb chops with a bit of fat on it, when he starts as a child, it might be too fatty. The liver won't like it. It might sit on the toilet. But if he keeps doing it, eventually the palate adjusts. The liver says, okay, well, that's how it is. And before long, you're eating slabs of fat as well, or slabs of chocolates. Some people
100%. Yep.
Yeah, and this is how it kind of drives. And unfortunately, as you said, the brain is not concerned about your well-being. This is the big mistake we all make in nutrition. Brain is concerned about energy and survival.
Yeah.
Well-being is the side effect if it feels happy. In other words, a person that weighs 250 kilos has got a BMI of 67. Honestly, he's in a very bad place. He's more than likely going to have all five, or at least some of those lifestyle diseases, diabetic, you'll have cholesterol, high blood pressure, these type of things. And his brain is still fighting to keep that fat. In fact, it's prepared to give him an extra 3% every year to 10% every year.
Yeah.
It's going like, okay, this is a norm, but it doesn't matter. That's not important. The norm is there, but that norm is my norm to survive. And it's like, are you insane?
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense. You're destroying yourself. And unfortunately, there's no tool. I think, let's call it instinctually caveman or one of those. Of course, he could never get to that level because his food wasn't conglomerated. I mean, chocolate is a conglomerated food.
Yeah.
It's not a natural food. I don't think that caveman had chocolate, and I don't think he had a pan, and I doubt if he had olive oil or spray and cook, that type of thing. So based on that, not saying caveman was the beer one, because he probably died by the age of 35, probably of tooth decay or something.
Yes,
He didn't
yeah.
have
Uh,
antibiotics.
yeah.
But the reality is, you have to look at that and realize, hang on, where have we gone? Now,
Mm,
our food has become so based, as you said, on marketing and on
mm,
drive to get it, must taste good. I know that they did some research, when was that? 1989. There
mm,
was a research related to just pure marketing stuff, but it was a bit about the food and said what an average palate wanted in South Africa and America.
mm,
And the palate was something like 16 grams of fat. If you made something to sell, was 16 grams of fat was the norm, and sugar was 5 grams. That would be a good thing to sell. People would
right.
like it, to taste good, and you'd sell it. And Americans at that time were 22, 27%.
Sure.
And they were really obese. So it meant that if you made something in America, it better have a lot more sugar and a lot more fat. Otherwise, they wouldn't buy it. They'd say it's bland.
Right.
And then 10 years later, we also at the 22, 27% now.
Sure.
So it's saying, guys, you are getting used to eating more and more sugar. You're getting used to eating more and more fat, and you're accepting it as a norm. And of course, the body shows that. It's clearly showing it everywhere.
That's it. I think if we look at athletes, so I think we got quite a few powerlifters watching. By the way, Hani's watching, so your mate from
Honey,
Vluggies. Yeah, Hani.
yes,
Just
Hani.
yeah,
Then
yeah,
when John also there, don't worry.
yeah, yeah. If we're looking
Honey.
at, and we really do have that mindset within the strength community that, or particularly within powerlifting, within strongman, within arm wrestling, the bigger you are, the better you're going to perform. And what's also
Yes,
amazed me getting involved with, we've live streamed 2 arm wrestling competitions, is the endurance level that these guys need, because it's match after
yes,
match after match. But getting to and I'm not going to say losing weight, getting to your body's appropriate muscle fat balance, if we could say that, for your height, for your
yes.
organs, for all of that. If someone is well over that, so they're carrying a lot more extra fat and they come down in weight, but they're worried about losing strength and losing performance, what would you say to the athletes in terms of getting optimal to that optimal balance versus being over and overweight, and the mindset of the bigger I am, the stronger I am?
Well, this is an interesting thing. I liked what the Russians did in the
Mm,
sports schools. They have an optimum. It's almost an upside down graph, both
mm,
sides. So you got one side is a maximum muscle you want, optimum muscle, not too low, not
mm.
too high,
Yes.
and the same you want for the movement you're doing. For the movement you're doing.
Mm,
So, for example, a ballerina would want a certain amount of muscle, but really at the low end of the spectrum. And they don't want to have too much fat. They want to have the least amount of fat
mm-hmm,
because of what they're doing, the movement. The same with the powerlifter. He wants optimum muscle,
mm-hmm,
but within his spectrum. Let's say it's 130 kilograms. It's maximum muscle, minimum possible weight fat.
mm.
But there is a minimum. When I talk about minimum, I'm not talking about 6%. That's just
Right.
stupid.
Yeah.
I'm
100%.
talking about going to be living in 18%, 16%. That's probably a good, comfortable place to be.
Mm.
But nevertheless, he would be 130 kilos and the ballerina would be 50 kilos.
Right.
So that optimum power to weight ratio must be ideal. And the
Mm.
cyclists, they get to know this quite well. That's why they buy bicycles that weigh 2 grams cheaper for another 20 bar or whatever.
I know it's
Something
yeah.
stupid,
'Cause I think what do
But
they
in
say? Like
reality,
a kilo per 14 minutes per kilo. I think that's sort of their mindset in cycling.
something
So,
crazy
yeah.
like that. You're
Like yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
very big. I say, well, that's
Mm.
great, but your body, it's critical that you have your body right, because you could probably lose 3 kilos on your body without blinking
Yeah.
and save 200K in your pocket. It'd be
Mm.
very easy,
Yeah.
because you just pull that ratio.
And they just pay you the
But I
100K
find
and
like
say
powerlifting,
50%. So
100. But if you have, like we have our
mm,
algorithm
mm,
where we can
mm,
say, this is what you as an individual doing this movement are
mm,
supposed to
mm,
eat. This is where you are. You put in all the variables of them specific, that
mm-hmm.
individual. And you say, right, now, this is what you need to eat to stay in what we call your channel of loss. In other words, lose till you lose the fat you need to lose and then maintain from there onwards. Then you know that the movement you do is going to drive you to the muscle you need. Because, of
Right.
course, muscle grows with protein
Mm-hmm.
and, of course, stimulation.
Mm,
So you would be able to then almost drive them to the specific, um, let's call it the specific level,
mm,
optimum weight to power ratio,
Right.
optimum for the movement they're doing. So, a guy is a power lifter. If whatever weight divisions he's in, doesn't matter. He's doing powerlifting. If he ate for powerlifting and he ate the right stuff instead of putting a lot of rubbish with it. Thank goodness there's things like real whey isolate and
Yeah.
peptides nowadays. The old days they bought piles of protein, Arnie and the boys will tell you,
Yep.
and ate lots of food and gained the fat and the muscle and tried to lose the fat.
Yep.
And that's kind of like a double
The
negative.
old weeder stuff that you'd buy, and
There you
what's
go.
it? Weeder
Yes.
and amino lick.
You're giving an age away now, boys.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Weeder, yes, it was 50-50. You had to have carbs to
Yeah.
absorb the
Yeah.
protein.
Yeah.
Well,
That's it.
if you have carbs to absorb the protein, there's something wrong with your protein
Yeah.
because
Correct.
you
Oh,
don't need
flip.
carbs to
Yeah.
absorb protein.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, that's the whole rice at night, so you can absorb your protein while you sleep. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. And you've got a caseinate which takes 6 to 8 hours to absorb and
Yeah.
then isolate. This was
Yeah.
all crazy science.
If your
It
cottage
was
cheese,
kind of
right? Yeah. Yes.
yes. And I remember them saying, like a guy, like those boys there we're
Mm,
talking about, Wamani and the boys. Uh, Really, 20 grams of protein was the norm. I'm going like,
mm,
well, you're smoking your own socks. This guy weighs, I mean, come on, this is a
yeah.
monster.
Yeah.
He's not a tiny person. 20 grams would be like a light snack.
Yeah.
And of course, he will be definitely be protein deficient. There's no way that that would be adequate for him. And so, yeah, we know protein is critical.
Mm,
No matter who we are, we can dance and mess around and do whatever we want. And if you want to become a greenie, I'm sorry for you. Not really the way to go.
yeah.
My personal opinion, because you're going to have deficiencies, then you're going to have to supplement to fix the deficiencies. So that can't be natural.
Yes.
Plus,
And the
omega 3 supplements,
supplementation is not what you need.
we're not going the supplementation way.
Yeah.
No. If you have a deficiency, should use the supplementation.
Mm,
If it's what do you call it, a religious reason or whatever,
yes.
so be it. But I don't think there's these type of. I find that these what you call these fad diets. You've
Mm,
got
mm,
banking, and then you've got intermittent fasting, and
mm,
then you've got all this. Bodies are not really engineered for all this nonsense. You need to get all the base right. I like with the Russians. You
yeah.
never hear a Russian doing intermittent fasting or banting. It's just not going to happen.
Mm,
He eats good food and it's balanced, and then you kind of make sure that you're getting the right stuff to do whatever you need to do
yeah.
within reason.
100%. And I think it's so sorry, just this one piece of camera software has come up now, and it's just going to cause a bit of a shudder. I'm shutting that down. Sorry. With regards to and just touching on the Russians, because I think when I started out, sort of with my late granddad was really my influence into fitness and health, and
Right?
my dad was very much in tennis, but my granddad was like, he was a little bit heavier. He was a boxer when he was younger, and he got a little bit heavier in later life, and then started to look at all of these different diets and eating fads and pulling from each one. Like, his biggest thing was he would always have a salad as a first course to fill up on the roughage, but he would have it with an apple cider vinegar and some olive oil as well to mix that in, and with certain nuts and seeds and ground lecithin and all of this stuff. And then he would have his protein. So he knew that he could be full, and then he knew the portion of the protein that he had to eat anyway. So all of this wonderful thinking, but so much of that, first looking at the US, but then as soon as Russia started to open up, we starting to look at the Russians, and then getting involved in kettlebells probably 20 odd years ago, and their
Correct.
training methodologies. Like, it's such a pool of knowledge and experience, because just the size of the country and the fact that all of the sports were state funded. So if you could perform well as a researcher, as a coach, or as an athlete, you were going to get the support that you needed. Why are we not listening to what the Russians teach enough?
I think we were getting a little bit there probably in the early 90s and
Mm,
the 80s. We were starting to look at it more scientifically. And I mean, if we look now, I'm talking now mainly generally the Olympics,
mm, mm,
you see these guys like Australia really getting ahead with things, and even Britain coming on board and saying The UK is saying we wanted gold medals now. We need to do
Yes.
this, and they became far more scientific. They moved away from that at first, and Britain kind of just dissipated into a nothing. And the last Olympics, you saw suddenly, wow, what's going on in Britain? Something's happening. We in South Africa, for some silly reason, be it whatever the politics or whatever, we've really gone backwards a little bit on that. We kind of like hit and miss. It's more individual little, I say, pockets of excellence that are
Yes.
driving this thing. And so it's a Nicholas. It's training his guys on their own, and they perform and get to Olympics, and good luck and all that. And the same with the swimming. And there's no sort of global thing in our country. Say, listen, we're going to put this amount of stuff to it. We need the best science, the best scientists. Let's make this thing work. Like the Russians, as you said.
Yes.
Obviously, Russians were light years ahead. Obviously, there was other things that we don't want to go into here now. But
yeah,
some of them were like
for
popping
sure.
their heads off, and some women speaking with very deep voices.
Yes.
And
Hello,
yeah, no,
yes,
that's
yeah. But also, listen, yeah, one of the other things the Russians were really ahead of, and I'm just trying to think of the famous Russian weightlifter from the 70s. His name's escaped me, but he would wake up in the morning, have a massive breakfast, go and sleep, then go and lift some weights, have a big lunch with like 2 liters of beer, go and sleep, wake up, go and lifting 2-3 times a day. But he was like napping and sleeping and understanding the value of sleep and recovery. But that's what he was eating for, and how he kept breaking world records. And just as a lighter note, I remember the story that he mentioned is the Russian elite athletes understood that every time they broke a world record, they got paid, let's say, 100,000 rubles, whatever it was. So they would only break it in half kilo increments. Even if he could have done 160 snatch and the world record was 150,
exactly.
you'd do a 155. And then at the next comp, 150.5, then 151. So they could keep getting the cash.
100%. Yeah, you meet some intriguing guys there. I was in a gym once in Moscow because I like gym now. And of course, being this age, I do a lot of gym because I know we need the muscle, as we said. And most of them were training without their shirts. It was so bloody hot inside the gym and so freezing cold outside. And there was a chap there that was incredibly good. He was actually strong man, but really shaped. And his wife was just as shaped. And I saw the way they ate, obviously, and it was like critical. And I remember McDonald's just opened in Moscow. And I remember us driving in a bus to go and look at the stupid McDonald's. Okay. And I'm not anti McDonald's, but I don't, never mind.
100%.
So off we go in this bus and we stop there, and all our South Africans jump out and run and buy McDonald's. And yes, this guy, I mean, top of his game, $1 million. I used to call him in the gym and say, look at this. This is the posterior deltoid. He could show it. So just hold it like that thing.
So and then he was your Grey's Anatomy, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He was spot on.
Sure.
He was incredible and really, really strong boy. And him sitting there with his wife, and sometimes we think wrong. Very wealthy man. So he didn't need to worry about money. And he kind of, I think he came from Ukraine, actually. He didn't come from Russia, but that days
it was all one, mixed. Yeah.
And he said to me, I said, "Are you not going to get McDonald's?" And he said, "I eat for strength. I don't eat for food." And I smiled. I thought, you see the thing was professional.
Yeah.
I'm here for a reason. I'm goal driven. This little nonsense. I'm not going to just have this Mickey Mouse thing because it's there. I'm here for a reason. And I think in the professional category, we need more of that.
Yes.
We definitely do. And if we don't do that in our running, in our life, not in running, even in all the sport, in fact, in our lives, man, we shove things down our throats quickly, without thinking. It's like an alcoholic. Forgive me.
No,
he drinks
for sure.
20 liters of beer and he needs another 20 liters of beer. And he's quite happy to do it. And as you said, those chocolates become the similar thing. And the same goes with any nutritional thing. The minute the brain understands it's circumvented you, it's like the gray matter, which is actually the processor, is telling the software what to do instead of the software telling the processor what to do.
Love that. So,
and it's kind of like demanding things. And you think, but hang on a minute, I've just had something to eat. I just had 10 beers. Why do I need another 10? There's something going on in here, not the body requiring it. And they all say, I'm craving it. I say, just hold on, guys. Is this really a craving? Because there's a question mark,
Yeah.
We also, in the whole research we did the types of cravings. I mean, I see it and I want it. That's not a craving. That's just the brain saying, I saw that nice bunch of energy, bring it.
Yes.
And then the second one is habit.
Yeah.
Every night after dinner, we have chocolate. We've just had a mountain of food.
Yes.
And now we're going to go to bed. Mountain of food. We're going to go to bed. And now we have a chocolate. There's something wrong here.
Yeah.
I mean, you've just had a ton of energy and some more energy just because you feel like it, and it's become a habit. That's a habit craving. Real craving is something you're sitting at your table now and you start thinking of a glass of milk. Wow, this is a real craving because there's no reference, and all of a sudden I'm wanting something I want. And by the way, I don't crave chocolate and I don't crave milk. I crave things in chocolate and I
in
crave
milk. Yeah.
things in milk.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I also love the analogy that you gave, where it's, not even looking at it as food. I've just had this mountain of energy, and I'm going to go after more energy, which I really don't need. That's it. When you view food like that, and food is it's fuel and building blocks, basically. And it's when we can develop that mindset, and this is what I'm so fascinated about. And I think particularly because I'm an alcoholic and I've been able to work with addicts for the last 18 years, with training them, with sort of with some mentorship, and it's an incredible thing where, if we look at the sport of powerlifting, and no one in particular even comes to mind, but athletes will work so hard, so hard in the gym to gain half a kilo, to gain a kilo, particularly established athletes that are over that beautiful, wonderful period of your first year, 18 months, where it's just gains every day. And then you hit that plateau and they're working so hard, but they're not getting their nutrition dialed in. They're not looking at nutrition with the same intensity and focus as their training. Why do you think that is?
Yes. I think it's because there's this belief of, you know what, I can train, I can eat what I want. I think that's the dangerous one. You can eat all the junk and you can train, and I'm going to gain. And as you see, the honeymoon part, where that first 18 months, everything happens. And then after that, now it becomes real. Now what happens? I also think that, of course, it's knowledge. They haven't got the information they need. They've got Google, which is dangerous. I call them Google dieters. Google dieters are horrible things. Tell you everything and then they do nothing. We need to, and of course, Google being so global, it tell you 10 different things.
And based on where you are as well, yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, you're saying that, Nicholas, people like that is sad. I call him the old man with plenty strength and absolutely no muscle. He looks like he's about 7 meals behind. You've seen him in the gym. He looks good. He's quite ripped, but he's too thin. He's way too thin. He looks like he's slightly off the edge there.
Like the wider chest, the wider shoulders, but the flat chest, and the little bit of a tummy and no glutes.
And even the neck is gone and the face is disappeared. You're like, oh, boyki, you're like 10 proteins behind. Come on, eat something. For goodness sake. I always say, if you can grab the bone here on your neck, I can grab it like this and I can put my fingers around it. Go and eat something.
Yes, 100%.
You are under eating, malnourished. And sad part is they're probably working very, very hard. I mean, they really are. I remember a girl by the name of Lynette Berger, which was a professional cyclist. And she's quite happy to let me use her name. She was about 30 years old. She was cycling for Toyota. And she came to me and said, you know what, I train 4 to 6 hours a day. I'm with a professional team, Toyota. I don't know, maybe I must start coaching. I'm just not, she was just doing things, getting in the top 5, and that was it. I said, well, okay, let's pinch and weigh you and have a good look. Let's see what's what, because you look skinny. I mean, it's a professional cyclist. They look this thin. When I pinched her, she had about 3 centimeters of fat, and I went like, geez, Lynette, sorry to tell you, but you've got too much fat, girl.
Yeah.
And she was she's a sweetheart. She's a real absolute sweetheart. And she said to me, so what do you mean? I said, we have to lose the fat. She said, oh, everybody tells me I'm too thin. I said, no, I'm not talking about thin. I'm talking about fat. We need some more muscle.
Such an important point, eh? Yeah.
Yes, your power to weight. Forget about the scale. Look at your fat and then look at your muscle. That's more important. So this BMI is a bit of a dicey thing because it doesn't look at that. You see? So I said, let's look at your fat and that. So I said, and then my next question to her was, how do you climb hills with your bike? And she says, oh, I'm not good at hills. I battle. They ride me into the ground if it's a hilly course. I said, well, surely, your coach should have thought about that because power to weight ratio is wrong. If they're riding away from you on hills, something's wrong. Those 3 centimeters of fat don't like to go uphill so easily. It doesn't pedal a bicycle.
Yeah, and you got to carry it.
Only
Still.
good place for fat. Yeah, you got to carry it.
Yeah.
And only good place for fat is in the swimming pool because it floats.
Yes.
That's the only muscle does it. So this is a reality. So I said, well, let's get you going for 6 months, but I want you to stay away from the scale because I know you're cyclists, as we said earlier, and let's get you down. So she lost 2.5 centimeters. She was very ripped, at her 8-pack, my goodness. But she gained 2 kilos.
Right. Sure.
So she literally had such a in eating that the poor muscle was standing waiting. Please, I want to grow. I want to grow. But she was doing that high training, cardio, burning off the very muscle she's trying to grow.
Eating the muscle that she
she
needed,
effectively
right?
was burning on muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was effectively burning off the muscle. She'd grow it and burn it. Grow. The poor body was just literally trying to grow, getting chewed up, trying to grow, getting chewed up. And so after the 6 months, it was at August. It was the first one that was shortened. It went to 40 Ks. Remember that one that they had problems over whatever?
Yeah.
Won it.
Sure.
She won it.
Phenomenal.
And then, of course, she came back to me and said, geez, like I've won. I said, oh, that's good. But in 2 weeks' time, she's going to Mpumalanga, and there's a hilly race somewhere in Graskop. She wants to ride it. It's okay, good. Let's chat after that.
Yeah.
And of course, she went and rode this thing, and she destroyed them. She destroyed them on the hills.
Sure.
Of course, I got this phone call in the middle of the night. Yo, John, you're not going to believe it. I destroyed these people. They couldn't ride with me on the hills. I said, this is fantastic. This is great. I said, so, but you're retiring now. You're going to coach, huh? She said, no. Not a chance.
Forget about it. Yeah.
Not a chance. Yeah. So I said, well, Lynette, I'm glad to hear that. I said, and of course, then she went and won essays. And I think she came second the next year in August. So she stayed around for a good couple of years. Sure. I mean, that shows you the difference. She done all the work, hours and hours of work, and yet it only needed the nutrition to make it right.
Yeah.
To make the work.
You know, that makes me think of something that been involved in powerlifting for quite a while now. And like South Africa can produce some really good juniors and sub juniors. And then we get pretty hammered in the open category. So you're 23 to 40 and into the masters, we start to do quite well. But I know with a lot of the junior and the sub junior athletes, they really stressed or terrified because they're performing well, they're winning, and now they're going to go into open where you're dealing with the monsters, because you can be a master and compete in open if you can do the numbers, and that's where all the world champions really are. And they're not getting those numbers, and I don't know if they're managing the nutrition enough. Because I think also when we think we when we're young, we think we can just eat whatever we want and it'll be fine. So with the younger athletes, so the beginning of the career, the moving into those open categories, again, how vital is the just sticking with nutrition and getting the right nutrition plan?
Absolute critical. There's no way you can go from into puberty and so on, and then the nightmare starts for these. And then, as you said, when you're going into open in any sport, if you're not really getting to that level, you're losing probably, as we said, 80-20.
Yeah.
You're losing probably 80% of the thing. And the other boys are all on the game. The Russians are certainly on the game.
Yeah.
I know Russians started the athlete children at the age of 3. They were put into these sports schools. They were trained. If he was a great swimmer, mommy and daddy was a great swimmer, the genetic was right. They would be next to the pool, doing school next to the pool, playing in the pool. And that was kind of their thinking. So the pool became part of your life. And I think the same thing with the powerlifters. They did the very same thing. They were in the gym all the time, whether they were doing school or whatever. And here's the downside of all of that. You work so hard to get so little return, and you'll lose heart. Now, when you come into the new category, there's a very big danger psychologically that you're incapable of you think you can't keep up to you won easily.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember in the steroid time in the early 80s and the late 70s, early 80s, when steroids came from, I know in the powerlifting game, steroids came from China or whatever, and there's suddenly a big hop. Guys that were winning essays, putting extra plate on, and then all of a sudden, the Oaks were warming up in the gyms, and I'm not going to say what gym. They were warming up with what the guy won essays the year before.
Yes.
You know? So like that was shocking, and you lost a lot of good people for that.
mm.
Now, children, young people, also the early starts. I found I trained a lot of juniors, a lot of athletes now, not powerlifters. And I found that the boys under the age of 15, when they start running at school, for example, they'll stay till the end of school, maybe a year or two, and then they'll quit.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
found that if you'd get them after 15, and it's not that they don't train, because remember the Russians and the Chinese are starting at 3.
Yeah.
I think it's the whole way we address it. So that after the age of 15, they are kind of, the emotional intelligence is such that it can handle it. Whereas before 15, there's no real emotional intelligence. Well, my wife says there's no intelligence in men until they're about 35.
84.
84, yeah, just but in reality, that was quite an thing. So then you realize when he hits puberty and he's now becoming the big man, but suddenly, and he used to be the big boy, the big dog in the little shop. Now all of a sudden the big dogs are really big, and now he's the small dog, and it's very difficult to move from that to the next one. And you need some special coaches that keep you going for the next 3-4 years before you can actually hit that level. And most guys will just fail. And you're right. The nutrition will definitely be absurd because children are just not going to do that type of nutrition unless he's in a sports school, like a Soviet school or whatever.
Right.
It's not going to happen. He's going to eat his chocolates and he's going to demand McDonald's and all his friends.
And also try and, get drinking with his mates as often as he can. From 14, 15, 16, try and pick that up as well, which just hammers performance. If we go to the other end with them, yeah, that's it. Sure. If we go to the other end with sort of looking at masters, guys in their 40s and ladies, 40s, 50s, 60s, if we got a lot of people are coming into powerlifting in their 40s and their 50s. And I think just the nutrition is such a vital part of that. But I don't think it's something that's looked at as much as it could be in terms of the benefit that it can give you. I'm not even talking about, for a lifter who's in the 120 plus for a man or 84 plus for a woman, where you now lift, you're 120 plus, but you're going up against a guy who's 186 as an example, and just moving massive weight. Right. Because I think there's value in the weight because you're carrying it around with you. So, I always used to tell people I lost 50 kilos when I stopped drinking. So that's like walking around with 2 24-kilogram kettlebells all day. Your nervous system's going to get stronger. But you can still outstrip that benefit, I believe. And I'd love your thoughts on this. Outstrip the benefit of the extra weight you're carrying by getting your nutrition optimal and getting your weight, your muscle fat balance appropriate, as you said, for what you want to do.
Yes, of course. Powerlifting, how the muscle receptors work, and they get used to doing certain things. So if you're picking up 20 kilos, of course, then your body gets used to that. And if you move 30, and then so it goes up, and the receptors get used to that. Yes, if you're carrying tons of fat on you, sure, your body gets used to carrying it, and it becomes a norm. However, the downside is that fat, the thinking is that fat carries it is not correct. The fat does nothing other than float. So if you can then keep on the stimulation, especially if you're older, and keep driving the stimulation the same way you were, in fact, improving on it progressively, because some people say, no, you get old, you got to pick up less rubbish. You get stronger, and I know. You actually get stronger and stronger and stronger. So where is the end? It doesn't end. You just seem to get stronger. You're picking up way more than when you're 20. So, yes, your science of nutrition has been sleeping. It's been following, but it should have been leading. And because it's a tough thing to get people onto, get them involved in, because it means changing your lifestyle and not just putting your hand in a bowl of nuts or taking a burger when you feel like it and so on. It means that you've got to think about everything you put in your mouth.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy thing to do. Obviously, another part, and I'm pretty sure you find this in your gyms. I find that when they go over the age of 35, around 40, they're also far more committed.
Yes. Yeah.
It's almost like they desire to keep going. They do what they need to do.
Yes.
When you're 25-year-old, they come and go like yo-yos. Not all of them, that's not fair, but most of them, it's like a grab and let go. And especially the new instant coffee, instant world. if it doesn't succeed in a year, they leave, they quit, and they do something else. So I think also there's the emotional intelligence in that gap where they say, you know what, I'm going to do something else. I'm not performing here. Instead of saying, let's hang on there, because the older guys, you'll get, I give an aerobics class, for example. You'll get all those aerobics class. If you start with 30 of them and 10 of them are under the age of 25, they'll be gone in 2 months,
Yep.
maybe,
Yep.
if you're lucky.
Yeah.
But the 30-year-old upwards, the 35-year-old upwards, they'll be there for the next 5 years. They'll be there every week. They routine, they do it, they know, they understand. And that's kind of the same with nutrition. Once it bites right, I think, Nicholas, the problem is we're still in this thinking that our body will look after itself. It does not. We have to look after our body. It's kind of like saying, I'm buying that Ferrari, not proudly sponsored by Ferrari. I'm
Not
buying
yet.
that Ferrari,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I'm going to hope that a little bit long, buying that Ferrari, and I'm going to hope that the oil will look after itself. I'm not going to put new oil in. I'm going to leave it as it is. It's not going to work. It's going
Definitely.
to have a problem. That's so much more with our bodies.
Yeah.
So much more with that.
Yeah, it's just we've covered so many amazing points. We've just hit an hour mark. Unfortunately, Instagram only gives us an hour for the stream. So we definitely love to have you back. And I know we're a little bit all over the place in today's conversation, which was great, but it's also given me plans for the next couple of shows we'd love to have you on with and to talk about. But I think maybe also one of the problems, and I mean this with all due respect to dietitians and to nutritionists, you have to understand what is the goal that you're going for. Are you going to be lighter on the scale, irrespective of the fact that you're now at, 25% body fat and you've lost lean muscle? And you're happy with that because the genes fit and you lose it on the scale. I remember all of these different programs we used to go on in the late 80s, early 90s, where you get group weighing and applause and, yeah, you lost 12 kilos. Say, well, I had I always joke, I've got a mate of my Nick, he lost 14 kilos in one day. Said, yeah, they amputated his leg. So and by the way, he had just gone into RLI. And they let him continue serving, and he served with 1.5 legs for the band. They're absolutely phenomenal. He wrote a book about it. Really, really cool. Yes. Yeah. So completely off the subject on that, but I think it's, if you want to be optimal, and that's really why I chose the title for you, because you are basically an elite optimal expert, and that I've got from chatting to people about you, not from what you've told me before we started talking. And you have to find the right person if you want to be optimal. And I think everybody optimal will give you a better quality of life, it immeasurably more than a specific weight on the scale.
You are 100%.
Yep.
Look, it's an absolute honor, Nicholas, being with you guys. Thank you for inviting me. That's really
my pleasure.
Bliss. Thank you.
Thank you. Boom, you can put the gun. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, put the bat down. Okay, no, it's been an absolute honor, and awesome. We're looking forward to having you back on. And I think knowing and chatting about our wonderful mutual friend, how I started the show, is like how I'd like to wrap up. He chose not to eat with his family, in Greece or wherever they were, this wonderful food, because he understood how amazing he felt all the time being on the plan that you've got him on. And I think that really sums it up. It's about feeling amazing, not feeling a moment. I had another nutritionist that I chatted to on my High FM radio show, and she said it's only the first mouthful that tastes good anyway. And it's such a good point, 100%. That as well. Yeah. So sure. John Hamlet, really, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to end the live stream, and then the screen will go dark, and I'll just chat to you a few seconds after that. So thank you for joining us. And to everyone else, thank you for watching. We had a lot of people coming up, a lot of powerlifters, a lot of strongmen. So that was great. And I'll put your details into the comments as well, so that people can get in touch if they need to. John, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cool. I'll
kindly
chat to you in a minute.